the Minimoog. The synth that changed everything. Hey folks, today we're making a Minimoog inspired synthesizer, where it all started. In this video we're going to take a deep dive into what made the Minimoog legendary, and see if we can recreate it using a simple microcontroller and a bunch of potentiometers. Let's get started! Despite how it looks, this is a straightforward DIY project that reveals a lot about analog synth design by recreating it on a modern microcontroller. Back in 1970, Moog Music released the Minimoog Model D, the first truly portable synthesizer. Unlike the massive modular Moogs before it, the Minimoog had everything musicians needed right in one box. 3 oscillators, a mixer, a filter, envelopes, and most importantly, a keyboard with mod and pitch wheels so you could actually play it. It was the synth sound of the 70s, from Yes to Pink Floyd, and it essentially defined electronic music. What makes the Moog so special sonically is its iconic ladder filter. It gives each note that rich musical warmth, something that digital synths struggle with even today. But it wasn't perfect. It lacked many of the modern conveniences we take for granted now. Because it was fully analog with no memory, the Minimoog didn't use presets. And although it had up to 3 oscillators plus noise, it was monophonic, meaning it could only play one note at a time and it could drift out of tune over time. And yet, somehow those flaws became a part of its charm, just like how 8-bit video games are celebrated for the aesthetic of their limitations. These days, an original Minimoog sells for thousands of dollars, and Moog, now a part of InMusic, reissued the Model D at a slightly less but still eye-watering price. Now in the modern era, we have affordable access to the sounds of the Minimoog through clones like Behringer's Model D, software emulations from Arturia, and even Moog's own Model D app. This past weekend, by pure chance, I went to a wedding and the person I was staying with had just gotten a Geddy Lee signature Minimoog the day before. This was my first time playing an actual Minimoog, and a DX7 for that matter, and we nerded out hard. The overwhelming impression that I got from the Minimoog is that it felt alive, like the sound it was producing is transforming energy into sound waves through analog circuitry. It's no wonder why people hold analog synths in such high regard, because it feels like they're breathing. They are also very expensive, which often accompanies the perception of value in luxury goods, and it's also just the physical embodiment of a great story. But does it sound better than digital? Well, maybe, but I'd have to spend more time with it to really hear the difference. Will it sound better than our synth? Definitely. Ultimately, in the analog versus digital debate, it's my opinion that the artist plays a bigger role than the tool. Like Jim Lee with a permanent marker or Chopin on a Casio, the skill of the artist far outweighs the differences in equipment. Now let's move over to the Blue Mat and see how we can build our own tribute to the Minimoog. It starts with the Teensy. This is the Teensy 4.0 microcontroller, though spoiler, by the end I switched to Teensy 4.1, but we've got a few hurdles to careen into before we get there. The Teensy is a powerhouse for audio projects, fast processor, built-in audio library, and full DSP capabilities. I chose the Teensy for 2 main reasons. One, its audio library includes a fully capable, high-quality synth engine I've used before, and 2, it supports USB host mode, meaning I can plug a MIDI keyboard directly into it to control the synth. The Teensy 4.1 has dedicated USB host pins, while the 4.0 requires soldering to the pads on the bottom of the board. In the Arduino IDE, I wrote a simple test script to check connections and the audio output. Now with the core functionality working, it's time to build out the control surface. And now, wow, an absolutely seamless transition. Now at this point we are several months into the future because I had to wait to get the new Teensy. I was working on other projects, but we're here now. Here's where things didn't go according to plan. At first I paired the build with the Teensy audio shield and a multiplexer to read all 20 potentiometers. But things quickly got messy with unstable readings, noisy voltages, and jumpy values. The knob readings were all over the place, especially with multiple components sharing voltage rails and a multiplexer that was, technically speaking, haunted. So I decided to ditch the multiplexer entirely and upgraded to the Teensy 4.1, which gave me more pins, more RAM, and a dedicated USB host connection. I also swapped out the potentiometers for encoders, which act like little switches with each turn to the right and left. Each encoder requires 2 signal connections plus a ground wire, so it meant I had to use up more pins on the board, but no more jumpy values. And since our synth is going to have presets, it kind of makes sense that the encoder should be endless. That way the values are not misrepresented by whatever the potentiometer is currently set at. And on the inside, here is the mother brain. Along the way, I realized I didn't even need the audio shield, which freed up more pins, and by using the Teensy's built-in USB audio capabilities, I was able to send MIDI and stream audio all over the same connection. That means one cable for power, MIDI, and audio all over USB. It's a super simple setup now, but I took an unnecessary complicated path to get here. The more you know. This did still leave me exactly 1 pin short, but fortunately the Teensy has additional pads on the bottom for expansion. So now we have 20 encoders wired to the Teensy plus an LCD. And by golly, that's all. No additional components.
Go F yourself, multiplexer.
Alright, so just a technical note about how I have everything set up. In Logic Pro, I have an audio track that is recording the Teensy as a USB audio interface, and the synth is being controlled by MIDI data being sent from an external MIDI instrument track. If the program you're using can't send MIDI to the device, then you would have to connect your MIDI controller with a USB host cable to the Teensy. The cigar box enclosure and layout gives our synth a classic look, a nod to those early hand-built synths from the 70s. Here's how it works, and as I describe the features of this synth, I'll compare and contrast them with the Model D. The Minimoog is divided into 5 sections, but we'll focus on 3, and I know right here you could just skip to how it sounds, but don't, because I promise this is going to be fun. Maybe. In the oscillator section, the Minimoog has 3 oscillators, each with tuning and waveform selection. Our digital version uses the same layout, though the frequency knobs are mapped to MIDI values 0 through 127, which makes them feel a bit more steppy compared to the smooth sweep of analog circuitry. Next, in the mixer section, the original Minimoog has volume controls for each oscillator, switches to turn them on and off, and a 4th noise generator for extra grit. We have the same functionality in volume controls plus a noise oscillator, but instead of switches, a MIDI value of 0 turns an oscillator off. Finally, we have the modifier section. This is the heart of subtractive synthesis. Up to this point, we just have waveforms that are playing or not playing. To shape them, we use 2 envelopes, one for the filter and one for amplitude. The cutoff knob sets the point where a low-pass filter begins to remove higher frequencies. The higher the cutoff value, the brighter the sound. The emphasis knob, which we now call resonance, but I like emphasis, adds a peak to the cutoff point, giving that distinctive nasal sweep. We can control the filter manually or modulate it in 2 ways. One, we can use the 3rd oscillator as an LFO, or a low frequency oscillator, to automate the cutoff in a sine wave like an invisible hand. The other way we can shape it is with the filter's attack, decay, and sustain stages. Unlike modern synths that have a separate release, the decay knob on the Minimoog controls both the decay and release time, giving it that snappy response. Using different envelope settings, you can shape everything from punchy basses to slowly evolving pads. At the bottom of the modifier section is the loudness contour, which controls the amplitude over time. Our synth has some of the same controls for cutoff, emphasis, and envelopes for both the filter and amplitude. One knob that is missing is for the filter's contour amount, but that parameter is accessible inside of the menu and mappable to other knobs. And to the keen observers in the crowd, you may have noticed the labels for NAR, Dust, and Magic. By default, they tweak the filter's envelope, but we can reassign them to hidden parameters like the filter's contour amount or anything else we want to add later on. Plus, it includes a full preset bank. Our cutoff knob doubles as a navigation encoder. Just double tap it and we can enter or exit the menu. Now that you've seen how the sausage was made, let's hear how it sizzles. That is to say, here's how it sounds. By the way, I'm not sure if it's obvious from the video or not, but I love the Moog Music Company. I know a couple of people that work there, and Asheville is located just to the west of where I am here in Chapel Hill. When I was in college, I first became aware of the Moog sound with bands like the Get Up Kids and the Anniversary, who featured it prominently. Then when I fell down the synthesis rabbit hole, I gained a whole new appreciation for it. Anyways, I just wanted to add that because this video isn't intended to take anything away from the Minimoog, but rather celebrate its legacy and impact on synthesis as a whole. The code and build details for this project will be available on GitHub. The original Minimoog made synthesizers accessible and brought electronic music to the masses. My goal with this project was similar, to better understand how this iconic synth worked and see how far we could push it with modern, affordable hardware. The Teensy 4.1 turned out to be perfect for this project, and I know if you're international outside of the US, it can be expensive getting these. They're now distributed through SparkFun, but at least you now have a better understanding of what all's possible with this microcontroller. Teensy's the GOAT, but there are other GOATs out there, Arduino, ESP32, Raspberry Pi Pico, but from my experience, none of them tackle the synth side of things quite as well as the Teensy. It's the bigger GOAT amongst the GOATs. It's digital, it's compact, and powerful enough to handle a full synth engine with real-time modulation. I hope you learned something from this, or at least were entertained, because sometimes the best way to learn from history is to recreate it yourself. And that's it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Minimoog, then let me know what synth you'd like to see next. Until then,
feed the algorithm.
Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.